Hello, hosts and travelers. Welcome to the podcast Hosting Your Home. Each week, around the world, millions of guests stay in other people's homes using the Airbnb platform. Debbie Herder looks for stories that come from these connections. Listen in as we hear stories that teach us the human side of hosting your home.
Welcome to Hosting Your Home. This is Debbie. Today, my interview is with Carlos Camarena. And Carlos is a photographer who contacted me a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and asked to stay in our studio here in Portland. And after he booked the place, he said, "Would you like to have some pictures done? I think I can do a lot better than what you've got up." And I thought, wow, yeah. So we worked out a deal and he came up and he took some amazing pictures of our space. So I remembered Carlos and I contacted him, found he was still in the area. He had since moved from California to Portland and he was very interested in participating in our conference. So he is our photographer. This is a great interview with him. I hope you enjoy it. Carlos Rafael Camarena. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being on the podcast and for offering your skill set to our conference attendees. We're really looking forward to it.
It's a pleasure. It's great to be here with you guys.
Thank you. It's going to be an awesome day. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah.
Where you come from and how you managed to find your way to Portland?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, in short, it's been a journey for sure to get here. But in short, my wife and I were looking at her joining in architecture from up here that she interned with during her schooling. She came back to eventually get an offer. I mean, that's what initially drew us up here, was for her to join that company here in Portland. She loved what she was doing here, and that kind of drew me to join her as well. And that was she moved in July of 2015. I followed her in October of 2015. And we got married in December of 2015.
Oh, my.
And then that proceeded to finish the moving process from Central California, is where we're from, Fresno specifically. And that's gone us up here. Now, when I landed here, my background was in portraiture and real estate photography in Fresno. That's kind of that was my bread and butter when I was at home. And now making this my new home, Victoria had mentioned that she's had a couple of years out, that she'd mentioned a few firms weren't exactly happy with the photos they were getting. And I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to kind of seize and explore, the commercial side of photography with architecture and interior design firms. I took a chance, I got in, and they've been wonderful to me ever since. So it's been a continual learning process. And as we get back into, photographing vacation rentals, that's a very big part of, vacation homeowners' business. It's going to be fun to kind of meet the stories and hear about how they're crafting their spaces and putting them together. I know a lot about how commercial, larger spaces come together. It's going to be nice to return to homes and residential spaces.
So you moved in 2015 from Fresno and doing architectural photography, and now moving into the more intimate Airbnb style. And so it's so interesting that we happened to meet the way we did, huh?
Yeah, it is. I still kind of think back that it's been, I think, almost 2+ years, maybe 3.
You weren't married.
No, we weren't.
You came up here with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you're one of my the first set of people that stayed in our studio.
Early 2015, I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was earlier in the year. And I remember that we were visiting specifically because that was, at least in summer, I know Victoria was starting to make the move. But in early 2015, we were trying to scope out, we were visiting to visit different neighborhoods where we might consider moving. Do we like even the idea of being in the city?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to experience not just out of a hotel. We wanted to experience the city out of a home. What would it feel like to be kind of immersed in the community, in the neighborhood? And even since then, it's been kind of fun to I think I sent you a link to, you saw the Verbo studio, the Corbett studio.
Yes, beautiful.
So that was another place that we stayed. And just to kind of hop around without any huge expense of checking out, the architecture and design is just completely different from Fresno. Not to say anything bad about California, but it's just very different.
Yes.
There's some spaces there and places that are very eclectic and a lot of character to the neighborhoods that we got to pop in and out of.
And
So,
you settled in Beaverton.
Well, we're technically Portland. We tried Beaverton. That was a little bit far for my wife to commute, so we moved a little bit closer. We're in the Cedar Mill area right now.
Okay.
Where we're settled, and so far we've come to love it.
Great. Well, congratulations on your wedding and your move, and it was an honor to be a small part of that. So let's talk about some of your Airbnb experiences. Did you experience some Airbnbs when you were in California?
Actually, no, which is kind of strange because it felt like we could drive through just about anywhere, that we didn't have really a need or a desire to go anywhere.
Okay.
California didn't feel really new, which is probably terrible to say because it's not like we went everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But in California, the only time that we did was on a visit to Disneyland. And that one actually, I never actually went through with it because we ended up staying at a different place. But so in California, no, it was actually on the longer trip here to Portland that made us want to experience more of the vacation rental setup.
So when you look online at an Airbnb listing and you look at the pictures, what grabs you?
Coming from a photographer standpoint, I'm looking for something that at least looks like that it was either attempted to take something that was more professional or at least on a dedicated camera, something that hopefully wasn't on an iPhone or an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this earlier, just before we hopped on the call. I think maybe before, in the early days of Airbnb and Vrbo, there was a certain sense perhaps of I guess, the intimacy of realism to hosts taking their own images. Maybe it portrayed a space a little bit more accurately without the flash or the draw of having it be commercially photographed, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was peering through even the Sellwood neighborhood, when we went to go visit, as we did as a case study, there's a lot more listings, and as you mentioned before, the Airbnb even provides these photographers. Mm-hmm. That's become more of a standard now, and that's now we've moved from something that's I think a little bit more perhaps erring on the side of self-produced images from homeowners to now I think it's really moving towards the trend of you need to have some time and money invested in marketing your space, and that includes professional photos.
Yes.
And for me, that's huge because to me that helps more accurately portray what we're stepping into, the environment and the home that we're being invited in to share with.
Then if I can just shift a little bit to the actual photography part of this, one of the things that Airbnb certainly does is they have this photography program. So you can sign up to have a professional photographer out to your space to take those pictures. I don't know how they negotiate or hire those photographers. I don't know what kind of system they have for that, but I do know that it is not the norm to be able to have someone come back again. It's a one-time shot. Right. So this you can get your professional photography and then you need to sit back and let other people have their turn, is my assumption. Or maybe they just don't have very many photographers on board in their system. So what happens is that as we grow and progress in our lives, we change our interior design and make improvements to our spaces, and we need to have new pictures. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things. One is, how long does it take you to shoot maybe a typical, what one might call a typical Airbnb, which would be like a studio space, for instance?
So for example, the Corbett studio that I showed you earlier,
mm-hmm.
And it'll depend. That studio, and I'll give you two different scenarios. In a typical, an average listing, about an hour. About an hour is ideal for a studio space, assuming there isn't multiple bedrooms and like split levels to photograph. Typical studio, 1 bed, 1 bath, and a kitchen maybe some exterior features. We can get in and out in about an hour. So it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. Mm-hmm. If in the case of the Corbett studio that you saw, and maybe it's something that we can link at some point later. But in the case of that, there was a large feature of floor-to-ceiling windows, and that lended well to views both in the day and in the evening. Mm-hmm. Kind of appreciate really how guests are going to be immersed in, all of looking over downtown. It was gorgeous to stay in. And we wanted to be able to make sure that communicated well in the photos. And so that meant that we spent a good part of the early afternoon and then into the evening. So that takes a little bit more time commitment. I think that one in total time on site was closer to 6 hours.
Wow.
Just to be able to get stuff during the day and then be able to get shots in the evening, looking through those same windows. We have to get both times a day. So again, to really appreciate and value that. Is that necessary? Perhaps not. But if it's something that you want to take that extra step to showcase and really appreciate and show your guests what they're about to experience, it's really kind of neat to be able to showcase that. And that becomes, a little bit of a hero shot for the homeowners in that case of the Corbett studio. When, as in correspondence back and forth after they got the photos back, I told them, part of, marketing their space is, change that cover shot, change that first shot that they see, because that's the first visually compelling image that's going to draw them in. What's going to ask your guests to click on it? Why is this exciting? Why should I bother going further? You've got your huge listing and you're seeing dozens that come up. Why am I going to click on your page? And I'm like, and I told them to test, rotate the images that are on the front. See if you can gauge, based on the amount of bookings or clicks that you get based on what you call your cover shot, your hero shot. The night image tested really well. So that was where it became very valuable and very much worth it for them to have a night image.
Yes. Weren't you staying there too?
Yeah, we stayed there.
So that's very helpful if you're actually staying in the space.
Yeah.
Except you would have to be careful not to make any messes, right? Right. Do you do any staging when you're there?
Minor. And it's mainly just a cleanup. We try to clean up any personal affects that might distract or take away attention from other features that might be more important. We might move furniture around a little bit just to angle it so it's maybe either facing away or to the camera, just to make sure that, again, the idea is to draw a user in, to invite them to enjoy a space where a couch or a chair might look odd. If you think about it literally, looking at an image, it might look odd the way it's placed. But when you get into this space, it demonstrates better at a different angle or different position, perhaps, how that would be experienced. So instead of a couch being, right up against a wall, we might angle a little bit more towards camera. Again, just to draw the person who's viewing it, to draw them in, to invite them into the image rather than looking at a flat plane. Little touches like that. We don't do anything major, again, just to make sure we don't break, touch, or for sake of liability. We don't want to damage anything. So it's always minor things. And if ever we need to move anything larger, it's better to have the homeowner on hand. And I usually bring either my wife or another person to help me move things around if we anticipate needing to move larger objects.
Good idea.
My wife is an interior designer for commercial spaces. That's part of what helps me with what I do as well.
Yes.
So I kind of get a twofold set of eyes on most of what I do, which is a blessing in disguise.
It sounds like a great marriage, actually.
It's quite beneficial. It's quite helpful. But usually I ask that the home be as clean and tidy, as ready to go as possible. And depending on kind of the emotion that they're trying to evoke in the space, try to remove just personal distractions. So things that are little conveniences might be great to have there, like on the nightstands, for example. You might have coasters. You might have like an ashtray if you have a home that accommodates that. Things like that I would prefer to have removed, either all of them or to have them already removed from that. Things like, for example, in bathrooms, your like toothbrushes, for example, bars of soap, like things like that don't look clean, there's nothing really of value to add to the image that is. It's not, unless it's like a brand new bottle of like shampoo and conditioner that's, isn't a color that's distracting, maybe leave that in. But like squeegees for showers come off. Personal effects from bedrooms come off. Extra clocks, clock radios that are on nightstands. If it doesn't go with the theme or the feel of the room, I'm going to take it down, move it on the floor temporarily. Do
you send maybe a list of things for the homeowner to do before you get there? Like remove all of those things, the magnets from the refrigerator, etc.? Yeah, it's something that I can put together. Usually on a phone call before I go out, I get to have a conversation with, or I'll go out and scout the space beforehand. Or I'll do an initial walkthrough, just if we don't get the chance or the time to do a scout of the space. Then on the initial walkthrough, as I'm preparing equipment, we'll do a walkthrough of the studio. And usually these are small things, so it's not necessarily difficult for me to say, let's take this down, take that down. They're small things that we just hide away for a little bit while I'm shooting.
So in the case of like the Corbett studio and the Rosa studio that we just photographed, we just walked through and said, I'm going to be taking these down as long as it's okay with you. Know that we're going to be moving these things around, and then we put them right back when we're done.
So do you have different prices for people that you might do like the first shoot for, and then another price for like an update?
Yeah. So what the primary, the initial shoot, and this is, preliminary because this is what's worked well so far. The initial shoot, we're going to be at about 175. Mm-hmm. And that's for, like we said, an average, hour to hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if need be, mm-hmm. of a studio, 1 bed, 1 bath, maybe 2 bed, 2 bath if there's not a whole lot of features that we need to highlight. If we go larger, like full homes that are being rented out, we have 3 bed, 2 bath setups, 4 bed, for whole families or multiple parties to enjoy a whole space. Then we move into what would essentially be a whole real estate shoot. And that's going to be closer to a $250 price point. Again, just based on size, mm-hmm. we don't need to overshoot if we don't need to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Even if you have, like you say, you do have a multiple bedroom and multiple bathroom house, but you're only renting a portion of it. I'm not going to charge you, the full house shoot if we're only going to be photographing part of it. So that would still right. fall under the smaller. So it's just a matter of mm-hmm. how much space actually needs to be photographed.
Sure.
So it comes down to. And then, for updates, because we're not doing a whole shoot, it's going to be closer to probably $50 to $75 to make that more manageable. And what I would encourage homeowners to do is, instead of being, I changed one thing, can you come out and do this? Change it in waves, make multiple, and aggregate those changes so that it becomes more worth it. So on the revisit, I'm not photographing just a bathroom update. So that we have at least a couple different features, and like I said, not just a bathroom, not just a new bedspread.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Make it worth it for you as a homeowner, and make it worth it for me as a photographer, so that we can convey something that really changes the elements
uh-huh.
of your image.
And something that might be seasonal too, because I know it's a good idea to have the different seasons if you have them, wherever you live, to show what the property looks like.
Absolutely. So that might be something where it might be a simple reshoot from, like I said, in the Corbett studio. For example, like we just had snow. We had a preponderance of snow that happened.
Yeah.
There's some really neat views or something that was really attractive from even the exterior. It might be neat to revisit something exactly like that for season.
Going back to the Corbett studio, do you have any idea after the fact how their bookings may have changed after they put up those pictures?
Yeah, they had a significantly increased response. So typically what I've done in the last few spaces that I photographed since then, I keep in touch with the homeowner. I always ask them, what do you feel has happened? How's the response been? And it's been one of a couple of things. It's either been their guests, either potential or actual guests. They arrive and they say, oh, the photos, it's just like the photos, or, we love the photos, and that's what really got us to want to come and visit the space. Or it's just simply an increase in bookings. If they're not actually conversing with their potential guests, it's just the proof is in the pudding. Like they get more bookings.
Well, we'll link on the podcast show notes. We'll link your website so that people can see these properties that you're talking about. And do I have it correct that you're offering some kind of a giveaway at the conference?
Yeah, at the conference, we're going to do something really neat. We wanted folks to be able to have a chance to stick around for as much of the conference as they can to really benefit from all of the information that's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of experts, a lot of folks that you're going to really be able to share resources with. So at the end of the conference, as I understand, we're going to have, I think, a raffle, right, or a giveaway?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So from me, what it's going to be is, for anyone who has a Vrbo, Airbnb, a vacation rental of any sort, we're going to photograph the entire space, regardless of size, for free.
Wow.
We're going to give you that to jumpstart or just to take your listing to that next level.
That's very generous of you, Carlos. Thank you for doing that. Very great. Thank you.
If you have images that are okay right now, let's make them fantastic. Let's give, your potential guests a really compelling reason to click on your listing.
Yeah.
And really start experiencing a little bit more of the benefits and freedom that comes with, and the excitement that comes with sharing your home. Part of how we met, I think it'd be really neat to make more of these connections. Part of the experience of being a homeowner that's renting either a private home or a part of the residence is this. Like we got to make this connection because of the Airbnb platform.
That's true.
Yeah. And it's I don't know, it seems like it'd be a really phenomenal way to meet people from probably all over the world.
It really is.
And a much more inviting, in my opinion, as a host, and I'm sure we're going to be learning about how to be a gracious host, but in a much more inviting way than just getting a hotel. Like when you rent a hotel room, I mean, yes, you're in the city, but I don't know, you lose a little bit of that authentic experience of being in Portland or wherever you're traveling. I don't know that we would have been so drawn as much to the various Portland neighborhoods had we not rented outside of a hotel room.
Yes.
I mean, to this day, we've been here and we've traveled back and forth, and we've hosted friends here, friends and family that just at our place. Not that we don't rent our place, but just to host them at our extra space.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally different. I mean, I understand that folks might want to get away to a hotel to have, a standardized place to relax, but it's really different. It's a lot more inviting, and I think there's a lot of value to giving a chance to home renting, both for the hosts and for guests. It changes how you experience a place.
It does. And it does it for the host too. I mean, a lot of people will get into this because they want the extra income, but that is never what keeps us there. It's so much more than that. Yes.
I think that becomes more of a perk. That might be what draws folks to it, but
yes,
there's a lot more to it. That becomes more of a perk of the experience, I think. And it's fun for me too, because I get to go and meet homeowners and learn how they've crafted their space.
Mm-hmm.
And hear the story, with Rose and with the Corbett studio owners. It's incredible to see and hear, how they've come to acquire the home or how they've crafted it. There's intention behind a lot of it.
Yes.
I think that's what's like, you won't get that at a hotel. And it's wonderful for me to go in and help the homeowner, help the vacation homeowner market that and really benefit and really tell the story or really convey, there's a pride that goes into when you put your vacation home together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth it to convey that. And then that's where I come in. And that's where it becomes really fun for me.
Great. Thank you. Do you have any aspirations to becoming a short-term rental owner yourself?
Yeah. As we kind of, we're, like I said, we've been testing neighborhoods. So we like where we've landed so far in the Cedar Hills area, edging on Beaverton and edging on Portland, depending on what zip code.
Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. So honored that you're going to be a part of our conference.
It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be great to meet a lot of the folks around here that are getting into this and hopefully get a chance to, like I said, take their vacation home rental business to that next level.
There are quite a few takeaways from this episode. And to see Carlos's work, go to our website, hostingyourhome.com, where we'll have links to I believe he's got 2 websites. And also, as our continuing vendor series starts getting more and more populated, this is where you're going to see all of the listing of our podcasts on vendors, as well as their contact information and links to their site. So please do visit us, and we're always happy to have your comments. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you April 22nd. If not, I appreciate you listening. Take care.